According to the documentation, each Vue instance goes through a series of initialization steps when it's created. For example, it needs to set up data observation, compile the template, mount the instance to the DOM, and update the DOM when data changes. Along the way, it also runs functions called lifecycle hooks, giving us the opportunity to add our own code at any specific stage. A Vue instance is created when we use the Vue create app function, as we do in main.js. Also, each component is a Vue instance. Let's take a look at the lifecycle hooks. The first hook to be triggered is the before create hook. Then, Vue initializes the instance's reactivity and calls the created hook. Then, it makes some checks to decide if and how to mount the instance in the DOM. When this phase is done, it calls the before mount hook and the mounted hook accordingly when the template is rendered. Here, on the right, we see the before update and updated hooks that run when data changes. Later on, when the component is about to be destroyed or unmounted, the before unmount and unmount hooks are triggered. Alright, enough theory. Let's see how we can use the hooks in our application. I will go to the home component and log a message in the console right before creating the component, thus inside the before create hook. If we take a look in the browser, we see the message in the console. You should know that the before create hook triggers before the instance is created. Thus, the reactivity is not set up yet. This means that we cannot access or update any data. So, if I try to log the category's computed property along with the message, it will be undefined. The next hook is the created hook. This hook triggers when the instance is created, but before its template is rendered in the DOM. Here, we have access to the component's data and computed properties. This time, since the category's property is available, we will see its value in the console. The created hook is a great time to fire an AJAX call, so that it has just a little more time to load before the component is visible to the user. Next up, the before mount hook is triggered. This happens when the component's template has been compiled and the virtual DOM has been updated. Once the virtual DOM is updated, Vue moves on and updates the real DOM. Think of the real DOM as the document that users see in the browser. On the other hand, the virtual DOM is a local and simplified copy of the real DOM. The virtual DOM is a mechanism used by many frameworks like Vue.js to do computations and decide what and when to update the actual DOM, faster than updating it directly. The mounted hook is similar to jQuery's ready function. Here we also have access to the special $L property. The $L property contains the DOM element. We can use it to access the element's attributes, such as the inner text, for example. These are all hooks related to creating and mounting our instances. Mounted and created are the ones I find myself using the most. There are also two hooks fired when an instance is being unmounted. An instance is unmounted when it's removed from the DOM. When you render a component using vif, for example, when the condition is not met, the component is being unmounted. So, before unmounting the instance, Vue triggers the before unmount hook. In Before Unmount, the component is fully functional. Whenever you need to turn off event listeners, this is the best place to do it. After that, the component is unmounted and the unmounted hook triggers. Thus, in here, we do not have access to the $L property. Here, you can do stuff like informing a third party that the component is destroyed, but in most cases, this hook is not needed. Inside the browser console, we can now see all the hooks firing one after the other. In order to unmount the component and see the Before Unmount and Destroyed hooks being fired, we can navigate to another page. We are using View Router, and of course it's smart enough to unmount a page component when we navigate away. As we saw in the lifecycle diagram, there are a couple more hooks that trigger when a Vue instance is activated or when data updates. Their use is more rare, but if you need to use them, you can find more information in the API section of the Vue.js website.